So today I'm going to be talking about Oedipus the King and what I think are the very significant mistakes that almost everyone makes when analyzing this play. It all comes down to, I think, one missed opportunity, and I think that not enough people really analyze fate. They just put it out there as this one monolithic theme and leave it ambiguous like that. They don't really look into what is fate, how does it contribute to Oedipus's character. And that was the one big problem I had when I was first starting to read this book, was can Oedipus really be blamed for something that was decreed by the gods to happen? Did he really need to be so severely punished for something that he had no influence over? And I think that when you really look at the book, yes, he can. Because I don't think that fate is just this monolithic external force that has no human element in it and is just the will of the gods in this play. I think that fate is really the inescapable conclusion of Oedipus's own character flaws. I think that what Sophocles is saying in this play is that human ignorance combined with human character flaws will create their own bad ends. And I think that we can see this throughout the play, and that it is much deeper than just a monolithic look at the will of the gods or some other force like that. So, and I think that we can see this through Oedipus being driven by his own character flaws and his own ignorance to become the criminal, the judge, and the executioner in the crime that he's trying to avoid. Now, the first element is criminal, and this is why Sophocles' choice of this particular story was very intentional, because it comes with a very, very well-known backstory for Greek audiences, and that is that Sophocles, that backstory is that Oedipus, when fleeing his homeland, or what he thinks is his homeland, to try to avoid killing his father and marrying his mother, runs into his father on the road but doesn't know it, and he ends up killing him. And then he arrives at the city and ends up freeing it from the power of a sphinx and ends up marrying his mother. Now, I think that this is the first crucial place where we see Oedipus driven by his own character flaws, because in displaying such pride that he thinks he can escape his own fate, what the seers have told him is going to happen, what many people have seen is the logical conclusion of all of his character flaws and his own ignorance. He shows a lot of pride. He shows a lot of pride in thinking that he can escape his own fate, in thinking that he can escape what wiser men than him have seen is the logical conclusion to his character flaws and his ignorance. So when he runs away and tries to escape that fate, he runs right into a situation where he commits the very crime that he's trying to avoid, which is killing his father. And also in the situation where he kills his father, you can see his father's character flaws and then Oedipus's character flaws that lead him to commit this crime. So first of all, his father commands his vassals to throw Oedipus off the road when he sees him. An angry, impulsive reaction that's really not necessary. And then Oedipus becomes so enraged that he kills the entire entourage and the king. So you can see that Oedipus has that same angry, impulsive attitude. And so you can see the character flaws that pretty much have made their own conclusion. You know, the character flaws have driven him to this point. And I think that's crucial, because I think that Sophocles is showing that human flaws will always create their own bad ends. And he goes beyond that, though, because in the beginning of the actual story, Oedipus, when he is trying to find out who has killed the king, calls down all sorts of horrible curses on the man who killed the king and anyone who sheltered him and knows the information but has refused to come forward. And so, in this instance, I think Sophocles is also taking a hard look at human self-righteousness, at the intrinsic beliefs that most people have in their own goodness and the flaws of others, how everyone but them is to blame. Human self-righteousness. And this causes Oedipus to become not only the criminal in this situation, but also the judge. He judges himself and he calls down all sorts of horrible curses. So it's not the gods that did that, it's Oedipus. And here again, I think we can see that Sophocles is not just presenting fate as this monolithic other force that cannot be reasoned with. He's presenting it as the logical conclusion of human hubris and human self-righteousness. And then the next development, I think that is missed and is very important, is that he becomes his own executioner, because first Tiresias tries to tell him, no, don't seek this information, don't force me to tell you what I'm going to tell you, it is going to cause you incredible pain. But Oedipus is so headstrong and so ignorant that he continues to seek this information. And then Jocasta figures out what is going on. She tries to get him to stop, but he will not stop. He is headstrong and ignorant again. And then the shepherd doesn't want to tell him what Oedipus wants him to tell him, and Oedipus threatens him with death if he doesn't tell him. And so it is really, so Oedipus becomes his own executioner too, because not only has he passed these judgments down on the crimes, now he reveals the crimes and calls down all these curses on himself. And finally, he gouges his own eyes out, finally completing the circle and fully becoming his own executioner. And he is banished from the land. He brings down this banishment on himself by his headstrong nature and his ignorance. And so I think that what most people miss is that fate is not just this unearthly, godly presence. And Sophocles is not merely saying humans should not challenge the gods. He is saying that humans cannot escape these horrible ends if we don't try to gain self-knowledge, if we don't try to face our own character flaws instead of running from them, and if we don't lose this sense of self-righteousness. So I think that fate is not this monolithic force that is unconnected to the things in the story, as some people will say. It is just this one big monolithic theme that is very ambiguous. I think that an added layer of ambiguity is mistakenly added there. I think that it is a very intimate, very poignant force, and it is very centered in our own human nature.